Let's bring in Joseph Moreno. He is a former federal prosecutor. Joseph, thanks so much for being with us. I want to turn back to the judge's ruling on Don McGahn. The judge said the president does not have the power to excuse McGahn from testifying. What do you make of the decision?
Sure, Elaine. So it's not terribly surprising, but it is significant, right? This theory of absolute executive immunity, it's not something that the Trump administration cooked up. It's been kicking around since the 1970s, but very few courts have weighed in on it. And basically what Judge Jackson said today, just an hour ago, is that, look, I'll accept the fact that there are certain privileges that members of the executive branch can assert. So there could be executive privilege, there could be attorney-client privilege, there could be others. But I do not accept the notion that members of the executive branch, including the president and his advisors, can simply not show up and have this blanket immunity from congressional subpoena. Not a surprise, but now that the judge has weighed in on this, it reverberates not just in Don McGahn's case, but anyone else in the executive branch that perhaps was considering making this argument. It's going to be much more difficult now having a federal judge who has wholeheartedly rejected it.
Do you think this creates an opening for former National Security Advisor John Bolton to testify?
It's hard to figure out what Ambassador Bolton's strategy really is, right? He has said that he'll show up and testify if a court says he is compelled to do so. Now, I don't know if that means he's willing to take Judge Jackson's ruling, which is not the case, not the judge dealing with his case, and that he'll basically now listen to what she has said, or if he wants a judge to weigh in on his specific case to say, you, Ambassador Bolton, must show up. So it'll be interesting to see. I think what we do know now, though, is that if he tries to make a similar argument, it most likely will be met with the same result.
So earlier this week, House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff said, quote, "We are not willing to allow the White House to engage us in a lengthy game of rope-a-dope in the courts." So if this goes through a lengthy appeals process, how do you expect this could end?
I mean, it's really matching the legal versus the political, right? I mean, legally, there's a path here, but it's a long and time-intensive path, and it means waiting for one, possibly two more levels of courts to weigh in on these various subpoenas. On the flip side, the political reality is the calendar is short. If there is any hope of sticking with Speaker Pelosi's schedule, which is a possible impeachment vote by Christmas, there's no way that Democrats in the House can wait to see what the courts do in these various cases with respect to testimony or documents or anything else that Congress is trying to get. So they're really going to have to make a judgment as to whether we wait and possibly strengthen our case, because most likely these courts will weigh in favor of disclosing testimony and documents. Or do we say, you know what, the calendar is short, the election is coming, we have a sure thing in certain impeachment articles that we can vote on now, let's just do it.
All right, Joseph Moreno in Washington. Joseph, thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Always a pleasure.
The outgoing Navy Secretary has